So we got told, you have to work with Iraqi soldiers. Now, set this up right, you've got to remember that when you're working with SEALs, you're working with guys that you know, guys that have a baseline of training, guys that are motivated for the most part, guys that are skilled, guys that have the best gear in the world, the best training in the world. You feel really confident.
High performance people.
As much as confident as you can feel going in the field is when you're with your brother SEALs. Now, and you got to rely on them, because in case you don't know, when you and I go to a hallway or to a street corner, when I turn one way and face down the street corner, you, as my SEAL brother, are going to take my back, are going to look the other direction and protect me. So if someone starts shooting at me from that direction, they're going to hit you and you're going to save me. That's what it's like. You have that complete reliance on the other person to do their job and keep you alive. So now we get told that other person that we're going to rely on is going to be an Iraqi soldier. So the Iraqi soldiers, completely different culture. You know, the Iraqi soldiers are very uneducated. Most of them, I mean, the enlisted troops, the normal troops, they're uneducated, they're poorly trained, they're poorly equipped, unmotivated, scared. I give them credit because even to be enlisting in the Iraqi army meant that when they were gone from their home, insurgents or terrorists would come and find their families and kill them. So they were dedicated, but poorly trained, poorly motivated, and with that dedication, some of them did have a little bit of a dedication in the wrong direction. So some of them were borderline supporting the insurgents at certain points. So here I am, I get told that my guys are gonna have to take these Iraqi soldiers with them. And they actually put like a ratio on it and said for every, one American, you have to have 5 Iraqis with you. And I forget what the actual ratio was. And maybe if we were in another part of Iraq that had settled down, you deal with it. But facing that going into Ramadi was very disheartening, to say the least. So I actually thought to myself, okay, this doesn't make sense. Why on earth would we be doing this? And now I'm saying to myself, how am I going to get my guys to do this? And one of my principles of leadership, and really one of my principles of being a man, is if I don't believe in something, then I'm not going to do it. So here I was, and I'm not believing in this idea. So how am I going to either avoid doing it or somehow not do it? So I had to get myself to believe. And not saying I had to falsely convince myself to believe, but I started saying to myself, okay, why are they telling us to do this? What is the reason? Why would the senior leadership in the military that's here in Iraq, in the military that's back at the Pentagon, in the White House, why would they be telling us to do this? To take more risk, going out on the worst battlefield? Why would they tell us to do this? And as I asked myself that question, I realized what the answer was. And that was that we needed a transition plan. We needed the Iraqi soldiers to be able to handle the security in their own country. And when I realized that, I realized, okay, if we don't get them to be able to do that, then who's going to do it? And the answer was no one. And so I brought the platoons together and said, hey guys, here's the deal. If we don't get the Iraqi soldiers able to a point where they're able to handle the security in their own country, who's going to do it? And how are we ever going to win here? How are we ever going to turn this over to them? And so the guys realized it. And it wasn't like they realized it instantly. I mean, there was still resistance because they were putting their lives in the hands of these Iraqi soldiers in many cases. Now, we actually ran up the chain of command and said, look, the ratio that you're talking about, I can't do that. I'm going to put the force that I need out there of SEALs on every mission, regardless of how many Iraqis we have with us. And I got approval. The chain of command was smart. They looked at me and said, yeah, understood. You do what you got to do, Jocko. And that's what I did. And that was sort of a critical element of turning that piece around, was getting these Iraqi soldiers to learn how to fight for themselves. And again, it wasn't just SEALs that were doing it. all the Army units that were there had Iraqi soldiers that they were working with as well.
How was that in reality, working with them and having them in the field?
Not good.
Okay.
Scary.
Did it get better? Was there a learning curve there for them? Or
They sometimes got better, but they're not good.
Just heightens the stress level on everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they had accidental discharges, meaning they shot rounds in buildings where there was no bad guys, near missing SEALs. Yeah, it was, you'd see them running down the street just shooting their weapons, literally not looking, but shooting their weapons over their heads back towards what they thought was the enemy, when you actually had SEALs running from that direction as well. So yeah, it was very risky, extremely risky.
I can't think of anything more challenging than putting that element in a highly trained elite team. It's like probably the worst thing to put in with that team.
Yeah, it was tough.
You asked the chain of command for a lower ratio. You had a history of not asking for very much. And when you did ask for things, it was because you really needed it. Was that one of those times where you just went ahead and said, we can do this, but I need this ratio?
Mm-hmm. Yep. My goal with every position I've ever been in is to have a good relationship with my boss, regardless of whether my boss is, an egomaniac, control freak, or whether he's a laissez-faire tactical genius. It doesn't matter what my boss is. My goal is always to have a good relationship with him. And by good relationship, I mean a high trust relationship where they trust me and they're going to let me do what I want. And so I had that relationship. I built it through the chain of command, and when I talked to my boss, they listened to me and they understood that I was coming from a place of reality. And I pretty much always got what I wanted.
To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonrealacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonrealacademy.com. So click on the link below. You'll be directed there and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.